皆様、お待たせいたしました。お待たせしすぎたかもしれません。平成最後のエロごとしのジャスティンでございます。Okay, so good morning everyone from Japan. This is Justin here. Today is April 25th, 2026. And the reason why I am noting this day, not because I'm just recording it on this day and then, uploading this at a much later date. It's just that today just happens to be the anniversary, my wedding anniversary. 8 years ago on this day, I married my wife. And I'll be here today to get some dinner. But before that, I'll just take care of some work. So I'm currently exiting Kawasaki Station. And many years ago, I used to work around this area. And I would give Kaiwa lessons when I was doing Kaiwa that was for senior citizens. And I pretty much worked this area. This was up until, the scamdemic. And for 5 years, I would come here and give or take 3 or 4 times a month to give lessons. And up until November 2019, the reason why I loved coming here was because Kawasaki once had an arcade that was based on Kowloon, the old walled ghetto city in Hong Kong, which was prominently featured in Shenmue 2. And I'll show you where that used to be. So, So I used to come to this arcade, whenever I was in the area. So once you kind of get out this, I forgot, is this the east or west exit? Wait a minute, I can look at this damn map here. Okay, I'm here. But all I know is, of course, this is the east exit. All right, so if you go out the west side, that will take you to a mall called La Zona, which is a nice place. So you also should check out that mall as well. But when you kind of get on the east exit, to your right here will be this plaza here with a Yodobashi camera. And of course, as you keep going up the stairs, it'll feature other particular stores as well, such as, a sporting goods store, a Life supermarket, and some other places. And here is so if you ever have any, legal troubles, here is the police box. And they're now taking applicants for police officers. And I'll kind of come back here later. All right. So yeah, there's a game Taito station, as you can see on that red sign over there, based on the alien from Alien Invaders. And this poster has, so May 15th, there's going to be a new, at this police box, they have this poster for the new Pat Labor. It's just pretty interesting. And here they have one for Detective Conan. And here's a poster to be, careful of stalkers. So yeah, and not only have, as I said before, I've now been married for 8 years, but, prior to counting, the times that, we were together before our marriage, altogether, we've been together for, 11 years. So we actually met 11 years ago on this day. So it's kind of like a double anniversary per se. And we got married on April 25th because that was like the day we first met. But we didn't really start dating until, October of 2015. So when I first came here to Yokohama from Utsunomiya around the end of March of 2015, I have no idea why there's a long line over there. If there's like some sort of, release or something, then I wasn't aware about it. But anyway, looks like there's something big going on. But so anyway, I first came to, of course, I've been here in Japan consecutively for almost 17 years now. But at that time, I was in Japan for a little less than 6. and I've already moved around numerous times. So from 2009 to 2015, I was already in Kagawa, Ehime, Hiroshima, Niigata, Saitama, Tochigi, and within just less, give or take 5.5 years, I had already lived in 7 places in Japan. and pretty much by the time I got to Yokohama, it was like the very first time that I was living in a, rather big city. Yeah, when I was living in Saitama, specifically Wadabe, between July of 2011 to March of 2013, yeah, I was kind of like living right next to Tokyo, but like, that's sort of different. But now I was, directly living in the city. So, and my friend who I've known since I've been here, he's now in Osaka working as a truck driver. Usually he finds friends through a website called japanguide.com. And, you can just post an ad saying like, hey, I live here. I'm from such and such country. I'm just looking for friends. And, I also want to practice Japanese, or if you want to practice your English, I can help with that as well. That's pretty much what the site was. And of course, the site explicitly says don't use it for, trying to find a boyfriend or girlfriend. So, I pretty much posted, an ad on that site, looking for friends. And I posted the ad in Japanese. I was just saying, hey, I'm originally from the U.S. I just moved from Tochigi, and I've been in Japan for 5.5 years, and all that other stuff. And, and one of the people that replied was my wife at the time. And like, hey, she just had barely moved back from China, and she was looking for some friends as well. And so, yeah, we exchanged line information. For those of you who don't know, Line is pretty much like WhatsApp, but better. It's like one of the top, messaging apps in Japan, and I think it's based out of Korea. But it's a really good app, and I like it very much. But so we exchanged Line contact info and started, contacting each other via Line. And, just like by the end of April, so April 25th, 2015, we decided to meet and get together. Just meet as friends. It was not a date. So we decided to meet at Sakuragi-cho Station, and that is like one of the main stations in Yokohama. And we met there. We walked around, downtown Yokohama. She showed me around. We passed by Landmark Tower. We passed by, the red brick warehouse, and we had some lunch there as well. We just kind of like, got to know each other. And then eventually, a few weeks later, we never really talked about like where we lived. We didn't really get that personal yet. And as it turns out, it was like, hey, we were living actually, 2 stations away from each other. And we kind of met like a couple weeks later on Golden Week. And, we met, we just pretty much had dinner together at an izakaya, just not too far from the station close to where she was living. We live in that area now, but, that kind of has more place. It's more of a central hub compared to where I was at the time, in Nishiya on the Sotetsu line. Oh, wow. So, yeah. And then eventually after that, we kind of both got busy with work, so at that time, I wasn't really in the best place that I could have been. I was moving from Utsunomiya to Yokohama, and I originally came to Yokohama with the intentions of getting this job at a private high school. And for the most part, I was under the impression that I got this job, and it was the reason why I got this apartment my apartment at the time. And then I had everything ready, and after I paid for my apartment, all the down payments and all that shit, getting my utilities ready, And I actually turned down like a few jobs in the Osaka and Hyogo area just so I could take this job because, hey, it seemed pretty appealing and had the best pay. And I was like, hey, turns out we can't exactly, have you right now. And I was like, oh, fuck. I actually did all this stuff and I was like in no position to, let's say, go back, and cancel these contracts. Like, okay, maybe I can find a different job, in that area. Okay, so now I'm here. So at one point, many years ago, this parking spot was the location of the Kawasaki warehouse arcade. And it closed in November 2019. I think the story was like they couldn't exactly, renew the rent and whatnot. And so they just had to close it. And then now it's just this goddamn parking lot. And it's paid parking too. It was pretty sad when it closed because, I love retro arcade gaming. And, as a fan of Shenmue and, Hong Kong kung fu movies, especially the movie Crime Story, where that one of the fights was filmed, I just really loved coming here whenever I could. And just to lose that arcade was very sad. And I remember, a couple months after, or not a couple months, more like less than a year after my wife and I started officially dating, we actually did come here a couple of times and had our fun. But yeah, and we played some DDR together. That's not Docomo. I'm trying to remember what building that was. I don't think that's Docomo Tower because that's in Tokyo. You can see that from Shibuya. All right. And of course, on the way here, you pass by a hospital. So if you ever get sick or get injured, there's actually like a hospital that way. So that's nice. Okay, that's called Marinitz. I have no idea what the company is. And this is just, a condominium building. So it's a nice place to, a good area to live in. So yeah, so I just had to clear my throat for a second. So yeah, so for a while, even though I think between Golden Week and let's say maybe July or August or so, we still kept in contact. We still exchanged line messages. We just didn't really have time to really see each other. But just want to say, hey, how we're doing, how's work, and all that stuff. Just to keep the friendship going on some basic level. And yeah, and of course, as I said before, I was able to find a job here in Yokohama. It was with an old employer I had in Saitama. It was also, an employer. I worked for these guys in Ibaraki from around 05 to 07 or so. And I also worked for them in Niigata. And when they lost the contract to Niigata, they transferred me to Saitama. And, and then I left on both instances, both in 07 and 2013. I left those jobs on pretty good terms. And I was like, okay, so it turns out my old employer, I'm not going to say who they are, but just based on some of the locations I just shared, maybe you'll have an idea of who I once worked for. So, yeah. So it's like, okay, even though they give out the shittiest pay, it turns out, they're giving out better pay than usual. It was like, okay, it's like, hey, I worked for you a few years ago. And I was wondering, it's like, I'm planning on moving to Yokohama. I see you guys have some positions open in Yokohama. Would you have an opening for me? I was like, oh, okay. And the guy responds like, hey, I remember when you worked for us. And I was like, hey, you can, we'll give you a spot. It's like, okay, sure. And, they kind of told me what they wanted. I was like, okay, you speak really good Japanese. They need Japanese speakers. And, we could use people with the kind of experience that you have. Yeah, to me, taking that job was something of going a few steps backwards, but, it was better than nothing. I had to pay for this. I had an apartment to pay for. And, it was like, okay, I'll just simply do this job until, something better comes along. Or I'll just try and do this for the year. And I'll admit that, my situation at the time, I just wasn't really in the best of moods. But, that was kind of the reason why I was looking for distractions, like making friends and whatnot. So I just wouldn't have to, let's say, think about these negative things going on with my life. And so unfortunately, that job I took just really wasn't working out as I hoped it would. To a certain extent, I'll admit there is some, I didn't do anything illegal, I didn't hurt anyone. It's just, shit just didn't work the way I was hoping for. And, I was kind of told certain things, and I was doing certain things I was told I was be doing, but it turns out I shouldn't be doing them. And if I take, for example, coming off my last job, in Utsunomiya, I was working at a private girls' high school. I was, allowed to use Japanese. Usually, of course, let's just say, most English teaching positions not only won't require you, they'll discourage you to use Japanese. Okay, there's the hospital I was talking about earlier. So if anything happens, you can come here. But, So, So anyway, I just was, going back to my job I had for a while. When I was doing this private school gig, they wanted Japanese speakers, and at the time, my Japanese was okay. I was really working hard to improve it. But by the end of my first year working at this school, it kind of got to the level that I needed it to. And then I worked there for another year, and my contract was up. It was time for me to move on. I did everything I could at that job. I hit that ceiling, and just kept being at that ceiling. And I could have stayed there, no problem. Just no advancement, no raises, even though I was getting paid better than most other English teaching positions. But I just felt it was time to move on. And even though you kind of know it was time to move on, it was like one of those things that was difficult to do because I was getting along with my coworkers, I was getting along with my teachers, but contract limits were just, where we're at. Yeah. Okay, so these are some really interesting posters. So I'm now in Cinecity or Cinecita. And these are some pretty nice posters here. Like that pop art. Shades of Andy Warhol. This is fun. Kidding City. If you're looking for a good place to have some beer, this is it. Yeah, these are some places where you can get some good food restaurants. And this is like a club or a concert hall. Oh, Memorial Day for Hyde, the guy who was in ex-Japan. Shit, I won't be here during that time. Yeah, I wonder how the sing-along live hi-ho. Yeah, he was a guitar... No, not Hyde. He was from ex-Japan. He died in 1997. Yeah, so if like a place to, let's say, listen to some music, this is the place to hit up. I try to find the name of this place. Club Sita. Yeah, it's just outside the east exit of Kawasaki Station. JR Kawasaki. Yeah, there's another Kawasaki station, but it's a different line, the KQ line. The one I got out of was the JR lines. More specifically, the Keintoku line, the Nambu line, I mean, and the Tokaido line. Yeah, there's like a lot of Italian restaurants here as well. And here we have like a mini basketball court. And that food truck right here, they sell lots of Turkish food, like kebabs. So usually if you're in Yokohama or in this area or anywhere else, a lot of kebab places are operated at small places or out of food trucks like this. Oh, this looks good. Tandoori chicken, spicy fried chicken, kebab sand, cheese kebab sand. Shit. Maybe I'll come back here later. Yeah, this sort of reminds me of the Alpen in Fukuoka, but much more towny-like. This is before I was doing walk and talk that I went to Fukuoka, and I went through the area where Kiryu goes through in that particular Ryuga Gotoku 5, and it's pretty much like that, and just not too far from it is a, what's it called? A mall called Alpen. There's one in Shinjuku as well, outside near across the Kabukicho sign. But man, the one in Fukuoka is a lot bigger. And this is an indoor golf school. I don't play golf. Yeah, I've seen those videos of it's like Trump and Bush and Obama playing golf. It's like, yeah, they kick my ass playing golf. Yes, more Italian restaurants here. Yeah, this place has a pool. Neo Urban Sauna. So this is a sauna house. An Italian food restaurant. Yeah, that place we passed by earlier also has a theater. And I remember they were playing a year ago, they were playing the Voltes 5 live action from the Philippines. A soccer shop. Oh, looks like they have a Korean restaurant above this Family Mart. This is nice. And here they have a BK, a Burger King. So if you miss home, they got a Burger King right here. And they got a McDonald's down that way too. And I think another Burger King. I'm gonna have breakfast at that Gusto over there. The one with the red billboard at the top. That's one of my favorite places to have breakfast. But they won't open for like another 30 minutes or so. So I just figured they moved the Tenka Ika ramen over here. That's like one of my favorite ramen restaurants in Japan. Fuck it. I'll just cross later. So if you were to know what my favorite restaurant is in Japan, ramen restaurant specifically, it's based out of Kyoto. It was like down that street that way up until last year. So yeah, this is Tenka Ipin. This is like one of my favorite ramen restaurants chains in all of Japan. It's based out of Kyoto. So there's also one outside Kyoto Station as well, which is pretty big. So about the menu. Okay, they say they won't really exactly have everything until May 21st. All right. Okay, so from Monday through Thursday, these are typical hours. They're open all year. Open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday, Friday, weekends, holidays, Sundays, and whatnot. So all orders. So it's pretty much open all year long with these all hours. So there's a lot of restaurants along this road. I don't think this is Shiyakushidori, where the city office is yet. So So anyway, going back to where I was, that's kind of the thing about the walk and talk videos. You know, you just kind of say what's on your mind, and then, you know, if you see something that stands out, you just pause for a minute, you know, just to share that particular thing. But yeah, so yeah, my wife, when this was before we were dating, she kind of noticed that it was just like after we started dating, she kind of noticed, like, you know, when we first met, she kind of got the idea that I just wasn't in a good place at the time. And you know, once we started dating, I was able to, let's say, explain my situation to her more openly. And yeah. So yeah, but anyway, before we kind of get to that, so I was just doing this job, and just when I got to Yokohama with an old employer, and it just tragically just didn't work out. You know, I was told I was able to do certain things. I tried these certain things. Oh, that's a pretty long bus. And, you know, like, hey, you know, we need Japanese speakers. And I used Japanese, and they kind of gave me shit about it. And like, hey, you know, I know how to use technology in the classroom. I can just, hey, if the classrooms have, you know, big screen monitors, I can connect my iPad or my computer to it. And like, hey, that seems good. You can do that. And when I did that, they gave me shit about it. And, you know, I was like doing my job in a certain way that I was told that I was allowed to do, or I was told I was supposed to do, and they kind of gave me shit about it. There's a kid, and this one guy who works for the Yokohama, you know, school board. He's all saying something like, "Hey, you were supposed to have these materials." It was like, "Okay, give them to me." It's like, "No, you're supposed to have them." Like, I was never given to them. It was like, "Hey, you know, how?" And he's like saying, they were never given to me. It was like, "Hey, that's your responsibility." And it was like, "Hey, what do you expect me to do? Give them to myself somehow?" And it's like, he kind of said, "Yeah." And I just hated that guy. And every time I had to look at his stupid face, you know that one meme that says like, "Hey, you know, in my mind, I imagine you punching you 5 times already." But in my mind, I was like beating him half to death with a crowbar in a house, with a warehouse full of explosives while he's all chained up. And I'm dressed as the Joker, and he's dressed as Jason Todd Robin. So yeah, that's kind of imagine. Every time I had to see him, that's what I imagined doing to him. That's how much I hated that guy, that I just wanted to beat him half to death with a crowbar and leave in a room full of explosives, and then leave him there as the you know, warehouse was about to explode. And yes, I imagine myself dressed as the Joker doing Don Quixote. Yeah. It's a good place. I'll come back later. But yeah, you know, this is also like one of the places you could go shopping here. Karaoke-kan. Yeah, if you played the Yakuza games, you likely know this place. Okay. So yeah, and it was like, this was after Golden Week when we had that meeting. And then like I just had, and by the time that meeting was over, I told myself, fuck it. You know, after I get home, I'm gonna look for a new job, and you know, and see what kind of job I can get after that. Wendy's. Yep, they have Wendy's here too. And the Wendy's is not bad. I don't remember the last time I ever went to a Wendy's back home in the US though. Ichiran ramen. The most overrated ramen ever. It's like, it gets praised by so many people, and it's like, really? I'm like, it's not bad, but it's like not, you know, as good as people start making it out to be, especially when you got better stores like Tenka Ipin. What else was there? It's featured in the Yuga Goto games. You know, Fujisoba. You know, those places are like a lot better than Ichiran. Ichiran is just overrated. But yeah, I don't recommend, you know, I wouldn't say I don't recommend it. I'm just going to say try it. But I just, compared to other places, it's just not as good as, you know, as people are making it out to be. You know, the so-called tourist experts, you know, the people who don't really live here and only, you know, come here for like a week or so, and they try the first thing and think it's the best ever. Maybe if you have if you have Ichiran ramen before others, it might be the best ever. But once you try everything else, it's like, really? This is supposed to be the best ever? But yeah. So yeah, I just pretty much, started looking for new jobs, whatever I could get within a few weeks. So I did that. And as it turns out, I found this place, at least offering, give or take, around 300,000 yen a month, 50,000 yen more than I was working. And they were actually going to reimburse my transportation. So the job I had at that point was like, okay, I'm making 250,000 yen a month. And I was at one school one day, another school another day, and I had to take a train. And it was like, okay, my so-called pay had my transportation reimbursement. Bullshit on that one. It's not separate. So yeah. So anyway, I just sent an application to this guy. He said he was looking for people who could teach in Yokohama in Tokyo. And as it turns out, like, as I said before, there's another Burger King here. So here it is. And they have their morning menu as well. And across the street that way is a Moss Burger. I fucking hate that place. And the McDonald's is just down that way. And of course, this will take you to the station. And there are more restaurants and whatnot in this area as well. And here's like another mall. This has a Toho Cinemas. And this has lots of restaurants and cafes and all that other stuff. Let me check what time it is. Okay, it's 6:30 a.m. I'll just kind of make my way back by going through this way. I think these guys are lining up for pachinko. But yeah. So I pretty much is like, okay, this is like a job where I now teach senior citizens in community centers throughout Tokyo and Yokohama. And it turns out I wasn't really sure if the whole you need to speak Japanese thing was legitimate. I sent the application, the guy calls me, and, we have a phone interview. And, he kind of, my boss was from Canada, and he's pretty much been here for 25 years at that point. And of course, he speaks very good Japanese. And he's like, okay, I'll just test you on your Japanese skills. He's like, oh, okay, your Japanese is pretty great. Come see an observation lesson at this place at this time. I was like, okay, I'll be there. And I come in, I observe the lesson. It's like, hey, he's using Japanese in the class, very openly. Well, I was doing that in Utsunomiya, but, with the job I had at the time, I was like, okay, I was getting shit for something I was told that, I was allowed to do and whatnot. And I was like, okay, I have these particular skill sets and I'll finally be allowed to use them and, and work upon them. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And, the next day he's like, okay, you could start next, in July or whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, I love that. And usually the training is like 1 month. And his method was pretty much, tailor-made to my skills. Or my skills were tailor-made to his, methods. I was like, okay, they all follow a similar structure. Step 1, do this, do this, do this, do this, and whatnot. I was like, okay, I got the hang of this. And as it turns out, I absorbed his methods like a sponge. Of course, every eikaiwa has their own methods of doing things. Nova, fuck those guys. ECC, for the sake of my friend, I'm going to say fuck those guys. Eon, don't know shit about them. But yeah, they all have their own respective methods. And, for this particular place, I was like, okay, it turns out, my 1 month training, it ended by the end of the week. It's like, okay, you pretty much absorb the training really quickly. You know what to do. It's like, okay, you're now working for me full time with that. I was like, okay. And it turns out I did that job for, let's say, the next 5.5 years. And I was getting paid good. I was getting my transportation reimbursed. And part of my job allows me to, let's say, get acquainted with Tokyo and Yokohama. And yeah, and I'm glad I did. And of course, between May and August, though my wife and I were still in communication via line, we didn't really have the time to see each other. And so during the summer vacation, we took the time to meet each other again, and we went to Enoshima. So if you've, let's say, seen what's it called, MF Ghost, for example, especially the beach scenes, Enoshima is prominently featured there. So it was like my first time there, and we had a really good time. Nothing romantic happened yet, and then after that we kind of saw each other more and more often. We mostly in the Yokohama Station area. And and then as it turns out, she was like in not a good place herself at the time, and she was kind of more open about it than I was. And I kind of openly offered her whatever support I could, emotionally. I wasn't sure if I was in a position to, let's say, financially help her. She was pretty much losing her job, and things weren't going well for her. And she just said, like, hey, and then she kind of opened up to me, saying like she liked me and whatnot. And I just like, okay, she, of course, my impressions of her, like, she was really cute. She has a sweet personality. I'm not sure if either of us were ready to, let's say, have a relationship yet, but we just figured, okay, let's try and give this a shot. And so around that time, a few months before that, I was in a relationship with another woman. I was living in Utsunomiya at the time, and she was living in Tokyo. And I was like, I wasn't sure. So originally I was thinking about going to, let's say, Hyogo at the time, and maybe still keep our relationship going in some form. At the time, we were kind of only seeing each other, let's say, once or twice a month. And as it turns out, when I decided to, let's say, move to Yokohama, she decided to go back to her hometown in Iwate. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, okay, I can't need time. Oh yes, as to why I'm showing this building. A few times a month, I used to use this building to teach my lessons. So yeah, I really have a lot of good memories of this place. So I just wanted to show you here. And we just kind of like took things a little slow. So I had just, in addition to, let's say, not getting this job I was supposed to get, and now getting a job that just wasn't working out. I had just broken up with this girl that it wasn't really too serious, but we had a lot of good times. That's all I gotta say. And in retrospect, it just, like, whatever we had, it just wasn't really that serious now that I think about it. So it's like, I just wanted to take a break from dating, I guess, for a while. And of course, that, as I said before, my wife and I first got connected through JapanGuide.com. And of course, it says you're not supposed to use that site for dating. But of course, we started out as friends for like the first 6 months of our relationship. And then eventually it evolved to what it was. And then, as it turns out, I was really happy with, I kind of realized, hey, I haven't really felt this happy in I don't know how long. I was coming from not one of the best places I was in my life at the time. And she wasn't in a good place either. I think we were like in a good place to, let's say, support each other the best we could. And and it took off from there. And I was 31 and she was almost 31 at the time. And I figured, like, okay, I finally have some stable work for the first time I've been in Japan. And, I want to have a stable relationship. So, and, I'm now 31. It's like, hey, I kind of got to do something with my life. Got to make something meaningful. And even though we hadn't seen each other for, let's say, 6 months yet, it's like, hey, I want to spend the rest of my life with this woman. And so when I visited my family that winter vacation in 2015, I just decided to buy an engagement ring. I wasn't going to propose right away. It was like, okay, just something to have in mind, when things are ready. And so yeah, so I kind of kept that ring for a couple of months. And on her birthday, we went to Landmark Tower in Yokohama, just to have, a nice romantic evening. And so we go there, and yeah, and that's, we were looking out, the setting sun, and that's when I proposed to her, and she said yes. And then for the next 3 years, just to get ready, we spent the next 3 years being engaged, and then finally, 8 years ago on this day, we finally got married. And a little over a year after we got married, we have our daughter. She's wow. Yeah, she's definitely a handful, but she's pretty much the best thing that came out of this relationship. She's a pretty smart girl. She's full of energy, and yeah, she's definitely, a girl catered to the modern world. And and she just started first grade. She's doing well. And this is where Tenka EP Ramen used to be. Another Kyoto Kita Shirakawa. I've never had this one before, but maybe I'll consider coming here someday. Okay, so they're now having their opening fair. Okay, that's nice. And they open from 10. But yeah. I'll cross this way and kind of maneuver around. Okay, so and of course, like every marriage, you're gonna have your ups and downs, but you do what you can to work with them and work around them, and people deal with certain things their own way. But yeah, these last 8 years, they've definitely been a trial, but they've also been a joy as well. And yeah, and that's pretty much what being married and having a family, being a father is all about. And that's kind of what I want to say. And I'm kind of glad I'm in a good position that I could do my best to provide for them in whatever way I can. So that's it for that topic. And next I'm going to show you a different part, maneuver around this way, and show you what else you can check out around here. Just gotta wait for this light to turn green. Yeah, even though that Kawasaki arcade is gone, Nissan Fair Lady. There's still a lot of fun things to do around here, if you're ever in the neighborhood. And of course, they have hotels over there. And of course, there's a hotel. Remember that outside the east exit, right next to that Yodobashi camera that I showed you earlier. That's pretty nice as well. Okay, there's no button to push. This is a pretty long light. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Even though my last walk-in talk was last week, walking from my house to Totsuka, I actually filmed that video a month ago. So for a lot of my walk-in talk videos, I kind of filled a handful of them beforehand, and then just uploaded them, and then recorded a few, then uploaded them week by week. And now at this point, I'm pretty much caught up. And, wherever I walked around, I pretty much showed you a lot of places. I've already showed you Shibuya, The last time I think I filmed my second or third episode in this area as well, but maybe not to the same extent that I'm filming right now. But yeah, there's plenty of places that I can go to and film. Just haven't really had the time to go there to show you. And sometimes there are some places where, filming is not really permitted. But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to pass by the Mossburger here and, show you where I book off and Starbucks is and whatnot, and then have breakfast. Yeah, those are the long buses. Here's the Mossburger. As I said, I personally don't recommend this, even though it's a Japan-only chain. For the last 25 years, I've had it twice. Got sick both times. Here's the McDonald's. Oh yeah, as I said earlier, there's another Kawasaki station, the KQ line. It's that it's like on that bridge over there, that way, where you see that green sign. Go past that green sign, and that's where the station is. That's the KQ line. And the GR line's over there. And here's like an arcade, just mostly claw machine, crane games. I'm not really big into those. But if you go to the second or third floor, you'll get more generic arcade games. They have a book off here. Here's a Starbucks. A Mr. Donut. Oh yeah, if you've seen 16-Bit Sensation, the anime about Akihabara, that girl used to go to Mr. Donut, but sadly, that actual Mr. Donut is no longer there. Now it's just some gay-ass boba tea place. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of boba tea. And if you've seen Cobra Kai, they'll kind of give you a good idea. Here's a clothing store. Every time I come here, it always has a clothing sale, a closing sale, saying they're going out of business. It's kind of been like that for the last year. And Hub, that's like a gaijin bar. I know there's one in Kabukicho, and that's where my friend met his wife. Yeah, there's the Yodobashi camera I showed you earlier. And there's the Nikko Hotel. And I know that, and I've been there before. I didn't really stay there, but I've had meetings there, and it has a really nice buffet. That's the reason why I recommend that particular hotel. Oh. Okay, yeah, this sushi place, it's open 24 hours. And they have a sushiro. So if you're looking for, let's say, kaiten sushi, the sushi rows there. My family and I, we kind of go to one once a month. Yoshinoya. And it's kind of interesting, they have Kimutaku here. And in one of the recent Judgment games, Yoshinoya is actually featured in that particular game as well. So it's like a pretty interesting, unique cycle. Okay, so I just got a few more minutes until this place opens, and then I just kind of want to use that time to, relax. Oh yeah, I talked about Fujisoba earlier. There's just one across the street right there. And of course, if you play the Ryuga Gotoku or Yakuza games, those have been prominently featured. Okay, so look forward to the next walk and talk.